The Vancouver Canucks dismantled the Chicago Blackhawks in their road trip finale, with the team's newest additions making their presence felt as the key difference makers in a victory that was absolutely perfect for the Canucks as they head back home to face the Pittsburgh Penguins this weekend. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss any and all updates surrounding the Canucks as we finally head home to hopefully get our first home win of the season. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is the Canucks dismantle the Blackhawks. So if you're watching the game, you would know that the Canucks won 6-3 tonight, just absolutely dominating the Blackhawks, except for the shots on goal where the Canucks only had 30 as opposed to Chicago's 34. It was a busy first period. You had Danton Heinen getting the first goal of the game on the first shot of the game, 21 seconds into the game. JT Miller jump-started this power play, getting the power play goal, getting his third of the year. And then you had Danton Heinen getting his second goal of the year with an assist by Kiefer Sherwood. And then Connor Garland continuing his hot start to the season on a great line with Elias Pettersson, getting an assist with JT Miller as well. And as well in the third period, you had Brock Boeser continuing Brocktober with another power play goal. And then Pius Suter scoring one directly right after that, just sweeping it in with an open net and just having no one there to stop it, except for the goalie, who was just 2 business days late to getting to the other post across the crease. Tyler Bertuzzi did try and get something going with a power play goal late in the period to try and get the Blackhawks a late comeback jump started, but it did unfortunately fall short. And at the end of the day, the Vancouver Canucks were the ones who did come out on top. They were the ones who just came into Chicago, just dunked on the Blackhawks like Kiefer Sherwood is doing right there. And as far as the shots on goal, first period, like we said, was very busy, 13-11, and then in the second period, 12-10, and then in the third period, we were able to win 9-8. So the shots were heavy throughout the entire game. It was a very offensively centered game, with Chicago getting the edge and a few more offensive opportunities than Vancouver was able to generate, despite a very lackluster and very quiet second period. The first and third period definitely had some fireworks. The fireworks did take a little bit to get going in the third period, but Brocktober did roll on when Brock Boeser did get the goals going. But unfortunately, they did fall short on the shot clock, but they did get 30 shots on net, which is very unusual for this Canucks team. And when looking at the total game stats, you see there in the face-off circle, they weren't as efficient. Maybe that was due to JT Miller not taking any face-offs. We saw in the last game that he got hurt, and so they were probably playing it safe, not putting him in the face-off circle for this game. Unfortunately, it did hinder on their face-off percentage, but on the power play, they made up for it, going 2 for 3 with JT Miller and Brock Boeser getting those 2 power play goals, and as well limiting the Blackhawks on their power play opportunities. They were only 1 for 5. Then you see there in the penalty minutes, 10-6, the hits, 25 of them, and a lot of them coming thanks to Kiefer Sherwood with 12 of them. We're going to touch on him later on in this video. But then you see the block shots. Chicago was able to get shots on net a bit, or block shots a bit more. And then as far as the giveaways, Vancouver was able to take advantage of Chicago's giveaways and also get some takeaways for themselves. And the cool thing about the game tonight is that with the win, the Canucks now have 8 points through 6 games. This puts them on a 109-point pace, which is the same number of points they tallied last season en route to winning the Pacific Division. So the Canucks, after a rough start in the first 3 games of the season, have somehow just pulled it together and now have gotten going. We are now seeing the Canucks team that we are used to seeing. These past 2 games have really been some old-fashioned Canucks hockey, at least for the past few seasons or under this new Rick Tocchet era. This is the Canucks that we're used to seeing. We finally have been seeing them get going. It's going to be awesome to see how they do against a team like Pittsburgh. It's going to be a bit more of a test. I know we're coming off a game like against Philly and then against Chicago. So these are teams that are a bit weaker than Pittsburgh. But if we can go into hopefully win our first home game against the Pittsburgh team that could be a fringe playoff team as the season goes on, I think that's going to be a great confidence boost for Vancouver after they have gotten one now from this road trip, which did have the positive outcome that we were hoping that it would have. This road trip definitely got something going with the Canucks, as well as finding some line combinations that are hopefully going to be here to stay for at least a little bit until it does not work and they have to switch it up again. But that's going to lead us into our second topic of the day, which is the new guys have arrived. So we touched on how Danton Heinen got his first 2 goals of the season. Kevin Lankinen also drew another start for the year. He played really solid in net. The goals that they got weren't entirely his fault. It was just the defense just falling apart. But as well, looking at the lineups, no question about it, that third line with Danton Heinen, Teddy Blueger, and Kiefer Sherwood was the best line of the night. Of course, Danton Heinen getting the 2 goals, Sherwood getting the assist and being a wrecking ball, getting all the hits. And then the second line with Niels Höglander, Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland, I also thought was a really solid line. They continue to be a really solid line, and I really think that this is something that the Canucks have to consider rolling with for at least a while. We know Dakota Joshua is going to be coming back in about 1 to 2 weeks, but if this is a case where, hey, if this line is rolling, maybe for a little bit, or at least until that line goes stale, you put Dakota Joshua on a different line pairing, and then if and when that second pairing does just not end up working anymore, then you can put Garland and Joshua back on the same line with Teddy Blueger, and to see if that just becomes another great rekindling of last season. And when looking at the forward stats, like we mentioned, Kiefer Sherwood, 12 hits. He was dunking on the Chicago Blackhawks. You see there with him doing the Michael Jordan there. It's so nice we had to show it twice. It's just going to be a poster for a kid someday. And especially if the Canucks are able to win a Stanley Cup, Kiefer Sherwood is going to be an instrumental part of that. And this is going to be something that I would definitely want framed on my wall if they're able to pull it off. And then looking at the rest of the forward stats, there was some solid plays by a lot of players. If you want to pause and take a look, we're not going to go through it all, but then we're going to look at the defensive stats as well. It wasn't as much of a flashy game for the defense as it was for the forwards, but again, you still had guys in there. Quinn Hughes getting 19 minutes and 49 seconds. He didn't have to get as much ice time as he usually did. Wonder what the motive was there or what happened there. But Carson Soucy did get a decent amount of ice time as well. It seems like him and Myers need something to get going. Both of them being in the negatives with -2s and -1s. They were the only defensive pairing in the negatives. So bad things are happening when they're on the ice. And we were worried about that third defensive pairing. Maybe the second defensive pairing needs something to get it going. Maybe they need to do something in the lineup to shake it up. And as far as the defensive pairings, maybe you do put Desharnais with Soucy, or you put Soucy with Hronek. I don't know what they're going to have to do. I think Eric Brandstrom has played very solid and has now earned himself a spot on this roster, at least for a little bit, until Forbort comes back, but maybe Forbort goes down to the AHL. But again, with the nature of Forbort's absence, it would be a little bit questionable if the Canucks were to make that choice. But again, this is a team that is going to see a lot of shuffling coming through this first part of the season as they navigate injuries, personal leaves, other things that just flare up, like JT Miller not being able to take faceoffs. So now they have to adjust for that. Even though he is playing, is scoring, is contributing, they still have to account for things like that, where he's not entirely injured, missing games, but he is hindered in some aspect where he's not able to take faceoffs. And we saw tonight that that was a little bit of an issue where Chicago won more faceoffs than we did. That typically doesn't happen for Vancouver. We're used to being ahead in the faceoff percentage. We're used to winning those draws and creating key opportunities out of them, but they weren't able to do that tonight. And I think JT Miller not playing center was a big part of that. But again, the new guys were the ones who showed up. We finally saw Danton Heinen's coming out party with his 2 goals. He was awesome. Kiefer Sherwood continues to lead the league in NHL hits. He is now at 44 hits for the season. He's just racking them up. I think he is almost a lock to finish the season with the most hits this season if he stays healthy, if he just plays all 82 games. And then when Dakota Joshua comes back, he's going to make a case for at least the top 10. And these guys are going to be a nasty tandem to watch out for. They're going to be our modern day Bash Brothers, where the memes are going to definitely be coming once those guys are playing together. They're not going to be on the ice at the same time necessarily. Maybe we do see it happen for a Bash Brothers line, maybe. That would be interesting to see. I would definitely love to see it. But what do you guys think down in the comments? What do you guys think about these line pairings? What do you guys think has been the diamond in the rough? Do you think Heinen is better on this third line? I definitely think he's found his spot there after a troublesome start on the top line and then in the top 6 forwards. I think he's going to find a nice spot in that third pairing with those guys. But what do you guys think down in the comments? But that's going to take us to our third topic, which is everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. And we see here from Mike Godin that Sherwood doing great, performing his wrecking ball work and creates chances as a bonus. Definitely agree with you here. Just like we said in this video, he's just been a wrecking ball. He is leading the league in hits. He racked up 12 more tonight. So he's getting double-digit hits consistently and just racking them up. This is why we brought him here, and this is going to be a problem for teams come playoff time. Can't wait to see how he causes problems for teams and how he ruffles feathers. It's going to be awesome to see once it comes around to the spring and summer hockey. But what do you guys think down in the comments as far as Sherwood? Are you happy with what we've seen from him? Who is your favorite new addition to the Canucks so far this season? Let us know down in the comments, and you could be featured as comment of the day on our next video. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. But I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.